Good afternoon. This is Shefali Chaturvedi from CII. Welcome to the third in the series of sessions that CII and the Sector Skill Council for Persons with Disabilities organizing on creating inclusive workplaces for persons with disability. Today, our topic is on understanding the rights of persons with disabilities, Act 2016. As you all know, the landmark bill on rights of persons with disabilities, Act 2014, was passed by both the House of the Parliament on 14 December and 16 December respectively. Subsequently, it has got the assent of the Honorable President of India on 27 December 2016, and with this, the bill has now become the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016. To discuss industry preparedness in particular for the new law and other related issues, concerns, and opportunities with respect to creating barrier-free workplaces, the new Rights for Persons with Disabilities Bill and their skill job mapping, the CII and the SCPWD have organized these sessions over webinar, and today we are going to talk about understanding the Disabilities Act 2016. The focus of today's session is going to be on understanding the Act, the implications for industry, understanding what is an equal opportunity policy, the grievance redressal mechanism that the Act talks about, and accessibility norms that will need to be put into place. Today we have a very impressive lineup of speakers, and I also have with me my colleague from the Skill Council, Surbhi Taneja, who I'm going to hand over to give a few brief remarks. But prior to that, let me introduce the speakers that we have today with us. We have Mr. K. Vikram Simha Rao, Director, the Department of Persons with Disability, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India. Mr. Javed Abidi, Director, NCPDP. Ramachari, Director, DEOC. Samir Gadgil, Vice President and Head HR of Wipro. To begin with, let me welcome you all again, and let me hand over to Surbhi Taneja.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to represent SCPWD and welcome you all to today's seminar on Understanding Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2016, Interaction with Champions. As ma'am mentioned, I'm Surbhi Taneja, Executive Projects, Business Development and Advocacy in SCPWD. SCPWD, under the aegis of MSDE, is working on setting national standards for skill training for persons with disability and mobilizing training partners towards fulfilling the skill initiative for persons with disability under PMKVY, Pradhan Mantri Kaushan Vikas Yojana, along with various other government-funded and non-funded skill development initiatives. The recently passed RPWD Act signifies a win after a long struggle. The PWD Act was enforced 20 years back. Meanwhile, there have been drastic changes in the disability sector in terms of understanding disability from the perspective of charity to rights, its social model of definition, new technology, and process of rehabilitation, etc. Passing the Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2016, the Parliament has done one of the major achievements of ministry during the year 2016. The new legislation defines 21 categories of disabilities, whereas the old one had only 7. This increases the responsibility of various stakeholders working in the disability sector. Speech and language disability have been added, specific learning disability, acid attack victims, and blood disorders, which had no mention earlier. Reservation in the vacancy in the government establishments has also increased from 3% to 4%. Also, to strengthen the Prime Minister's Accessible India campaign, the stress is now given to ensure accessibility in public buildings. This act has revived many debates, including one of those to create inclusive infrastructure to facilitate greater independence for persons with disabilities. One of the key players in the debates is the corporate sector, which has engaged with the issue in a limited way so far, from token reservation to internal employment to working with persons with disability under the ambit of CSR. This act is expected to increase the corporate support in a meaningful engagement for persons with disability. Now the real tasks start, to bring the issues that affect the lives of diverse people and work towards common goal of overseeing the uniform implementation of the law. Chapter 4 of this act talks about skill development and employment. And SCPWD, in its best efforts, is trying to achieve its objectives of mainstreaming persons with disability with the support of various government initiatives and industry engagement. SCPWD aspires for a successful endeavor for persons with disability by addressing the skill gap, providing right tools and work environment to effectively perform their jobs. I am keenly looking forward to a meaningful deliberation today by the experts of the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Surbi, for putting the context together. And without any further ado, let me now turn to Mr. Vikram Simha Rao, Director, Department of Persons with Disability. Divyangjan. Mr. Rao brings with him 15 years of experience in health and disability sector and a specialization in policy and planning space. His work at this department has spanned effective policy and program transects for promotion and protection of rights of persons with disabilities. He has guided and mentored the creation of a robust law and efficient administrative mechanisms for PWDs. In the last 4 years, he has contributed extensively to frame a new draft legislation, policy inputs, and programs oversight to the department. He will be covering the overview of the bill, of the Act, 2016. We couldn't have got a better person. Thank you very much, and over to you, Mr. Rao.
Thank you, Ms. Shefali. Science and technology, engineering, research, in strong collaboration with industry, can find ways to prevent, reduce, manage disabilities. Appropriate assistive technology helps people with disabilities overcome or compensate, at least in part, for their limitations. It can help restore function in people who have developed a disability due to disease, injury, or aging. It can enable individuals to care for themselves and their families, work, learn in schools, other educational institutions, access information through computers and reading, enjoy music, sports, travel, and arts, and participate fully in community life. Government of India is committed to the promotion and protection of rights of persons with disabilities. They constitute a considerable human resource who, if given adequate opportunities and facilities, can contribute to the socio-economic development of our nation. The newly enacted Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016 is a rights-based legislation containing a number of rights and entitlements to the persons with disabilities compared to the law of 1995. Till recently, disability was considered as a condition created by the limitations of individual capacity. Now, this thinking has become obsolete. Absence of any limb or sensory or intellectual function is no more considered as disability. It is the presence of barriers, environmental and attitudinal, which create disability. As per this new law, barrier is defined as any factor, including communicational, cultural, economic, environmental, institutional, political, social, attitudinal, or structural, which hampers the full and effective participation of persons with disabilities in society. Secondly, the law has guaranteed right to equality and non-discrimination in respect of persons with disabilities. Discrimination has been defined as any distinction, exclusion, restriction on the basis of disability which is the purpose or effect of impairing or nullifying the recognition, enjoyment, or exercise on an equal basis with others of all human rights and fundamental freedoms in the political, economic, social, cultural, civil, or any other field, and includes all forms of discrimination and denial of reasonable accommodation. Thirdly, it will be the responsibility of the government to take necessary steps to ensure reasonable accommodation, meaning to make appropriate modification and adjustments so that persons with disabilities enjoy and exercise their rights equally with others. To give an example, a person with physical disability can enter this conference room and participate equally with others in the function if he is provided a wheelchair, a ramp, and an escort to reach the venue. One with hearing impairment can participate with the help of a sign language interpreter, and also one with visual impairment if given a walking stick used on a tactile floor or an escort. Thus, disabilities can stand neutralized. Against the existing 7 disabilities, the new law recognizes 21 disabilities. Persons with these disabilities will be entitled to various governmental benefits in the area of early intervention, health, education, employment, skill development, social security, rehabilitation, recreation, home and family life, legal rights. The physical environment, the public transportation, information and communication needed by the public in urban and rural areas will have to be made accessible to all persons with disabilities. Within a period of 5 years from the date of notification of rules, all existing public buildings, which include private buildings used by public, have to be made accessible. For service providers in the areas of public transport and information communication technology, the time given is 2 years. The government will formulate necessary accessibility standards in this regard. Every child with 40% disability and above is entitled to free education from 6 to 18 years of age in a neighborhood school or a special school. Government will make efforts to achieve inclusive education and provide necessary facilities, modes of communication, curriculum, education, examination and books, scholarships, and employ appropriate teachers. Periodic survey needs to be conducted every 5 years to identify the special needs for school education. There will be a 5% reservation in admission for students with disabilities in higher educational institutions. New law provides for 4% reservation in government jobs against the existing 3% and entitles new categories for these jobs, such as leprosy-cured persons, muscular dystrophy, cerebral palsy, dwarfism, acid attack victims, autism, intellectual disabilities, specific learning disabilities, mental illness, and multiple disabilities. The Act contains a provision that the government will provide incentives to employer in private sector to ensure that at least 5% of the workforce is comprising of persons with disabilities. Two other special features of the Act, which is not there in the 1995 Act, are that it contains details of offences and punishment for violation of provisions of the law. The special courts will be designated by the state governments to provide for speedy trial of offences under the Act. This new law has received assent of President of India, but is yet to come into force. Rules are being framed in order to bring the law into force from a stipulated date in the near future. Rules are to be put in place by the central as well as state governments. We are framing the guidelines for assessing the extent of disability in respect of all categories of disabilities, old and new. Camps will be organized across the states to issue disability certificates in a time-bound manner. Posts in the government sector will be identified for persons with disabilities in order to fulfill the mandate of reservation. Our target is to reach the goal of inclusion and empowerment of persons with disabilities in the country without further delay. I strongly believe that the new legislation will bear fruits only with concerted efforts of all stakeholders, governmental, non-governmental, educational, judicial institutions, industry, civil society organizations, and various professional groups. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rao. You've touched upon the components of the law, the responsibilities that the government is undertaking, the incentives for employers, as well as, of course, the implications of violation, the changes from the previous law that was there, and the time frame that is required to comply. So I think that's fairly comprehensive. And may I now, and I'm sure there'll be questions later, but may I now move to our next speaker. Javed, do I call you the poster boy for this area of work in terms of, making it something that all of us, when we talked about matters relating to disability, the first name that really always came to our mind was Javed Abidi and continues to be that. So thank you very much for joining us. Javed has successfully led several path-breaking advocacy initiatives in India, including the drafting and enactment of the Disability Act of 1995, inclusion of disability as a separate category in the census, India's ratification of CRPD in 2007, and setting up of a separate Department of Disability Affairs. Most recently, he has led the movement towards India's new disability rights law, the Persons with Disabilities Act 2016. He is also the global chair of Disabled Peoples International, a position he has been re-elected to for the second time. He strongly believes that empowerment of persons with disabilities is connected to education, which in turn hinges on accessibility. And all three are not possible without enabling laws and policies. Mr. Abidi will be sharing the journey of movement for PWDs and covering the important aspects of the Act. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Shefali. Thanks for your kind words. Just a small amendment there, not the poster boy, but the poster senior citizen of the disability sector. No, jokes apart, it gives me tremendous joy to be here with you at CII, and I must thank you, Shefali, and Jawahar, Manisha, Mr. Rao, the entire team for the work that you have done and for making this series possible. I think it's a wonderful thing that even when the law has not yet come into force, CII is taking these steps to start the awareness building and the dissemination of information. So thank you so much. It has been a long journey. I go back to 91, 92 when I joined the disability movement, to 93 when we formed the Disabled Rights Group with just 8 people. Who could have thought where we would reach in just a matter of 20 odd years. 95, of course, will go down in history as the year when we got our first law. Until 1995, we did not have any law in this country to protect the rights of people with disabilities. And that's not just a year, or that's not just a number. What I have always emphasized upon in all my discourses is that it's half a century wasted. Let's not forget that we became independent in 1947, and 1947 to 1995 straight away, I mean, 48 years, we did not have any law to protect the rights of people with disabilities. And that explains as to why people with disabilities have been so neglected and why just about everything has gone bad. But we got the law in 95. It has been a 20-year journey since then. And then fast forward to the present times, 2015, 2016. Now we have got the Disability Act of 2016. And here we are in this room. I have been passionately arguing, trying to make a point that this particular law is a game changer. So in philosophical terms or academic terms, I have referred to the previous era, the last 20 years, as Disability 1.0, and now we are graduating into Disability 2.0. This is a game changer. It's going to completely change everything about disability, and I'll very briefly, in the few minutes that we have, explain as to why. I present 6 salient points. Mr. Rao has, of course, already given a wonderful introduction. He has referred to many of the features already. My colleagues Rama and Samir will, I'm sure, elaborate on many other points, but very quickly, 6 reasons as to why at least I believe that this law is a game changer. The first, which everyone knows, is most probably the most publicized point, is that the number of disabilities has gone up from 7 to 21. But then again, it's not about numbers. It's not 7, it's not 21. It's the bottom line that 14 types of disabilities. ये थोड़ी हुआ है कि अचानक वो लोग disabled हो गए. They always were persons with disabilities. They always were discriminated. They always were without rights. But this country did not recognize them as persons with disabilities. People with learning disabilities were not recognized as people with disabilities. So the number having gone up from 7 to 21 will be a game changer. I mean, I don't think it requires any elaboration. What is also important, which I don't think the country has talked enough or understood enough, is that on one hand we say that disabled people are marginalized, deprived, etc., etc. But amongst the disabled community, we have the haves and the have-nots. And very broadly, blind people, deaf people, wheelchair users, I mean orthopedically disabled people, I mean, take it with a pinch of salt. Whatever benefits, good, bad, ugly, whatever little bit, quota, admission in schools, little bit of ramps here and there, braille here and there, has been limited to these 3 communities. My focus is on the have-nots. My focus is on people with intellectual disabilities, people with psychosocial disabilities, people with autism, people with cerebral palsy, people with leprosy, and all the conditions which are now finally being recognized. So this law is more about the have-nots than for the haves. The haves will also benefit. Things will become better for wheelchair users. Things will become better for the blind. Things will become much more better for the deaf. But the maximum benefit will go to the have-nots who have been neglected by this country until now. The second point on which I would like to highlight quickly is that India is officially recognizing, and that's a path-breaking development, that people with intellectual disabilities and psychosocial disabilities can work. Until now, we did not even recognize them as people. Now the law is officially saying that amongst other disabilities, people with intellectual disabilities, people with psychosocial disabilities can work. And what an amazing development would that be? Until now, people were hiding their disabilities. They did not even want to come out in public for the fear that they would be discriminated against. The third point, which I feel is a game changer, is the accountability on the private sector for the first time. In 1995, there were sections and clauses which could have been used, which were used to some extent, but there wasn't much accountability. I must compliment the private sector for having risen to the occasion where, well, maybe not the entire private sector. I wish all 5,000, 10,000, God knows how many companies would have behaved in a similar fashion. But at least some role models we have, whether it's a Wipro, whether it's an Mphasis, whether it's a Mindtree, whether it's a ANZ, whether it's a Lemon Tree, and there's a whole list of people who have not waited for any law, any compulsion, any quota, any force, and they have risen to the occasion, and we have amazing, great role models. But this law will now create tremendous accountability on everyone. Section 2(1), 2(1) is the definition of establishment, and it very clearly says that establishment includes a government establishment and a private establishment. So there is no ambiguity now that when we, anywhere in this law, if you read the word establishment, it also includes the private sector. Not only that, but also if we go to 21(1), it says that every establishment shall notify an equal opportunity policy detailing measures proposed to be taken, which I interpret as that every establishment, including all private sector companies, all private sector organizations, will now have to come out with a disability policy, equal opportunity policy. And what I would like to clarify here very quickly is that it does not matter whether you employ a single disabled person or not. It does not say that you will come out with a policy only if you are employing people with disabilities. No, 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 no. Each one of us will now have to come out with our vision statement as to what our disability policy or our equal opportunity policy is going to be, and that's going to be a game changer. The education sector will have to rise to the occasion. If you look at chapter 3, I'll just read one section, section 16, which says duty of educational institutions. And by the way, educational institutions have again been defined as funded or recognized. So it's not about government education institutions anymore. It's not about only government funded universities or the Kendriya Vidyalayas or the Navodaya Vidyalayas. No. You could be a private sector institution, you could be a private university, a private college, a private school, but if you have recognition, and tell me of one school, one college, one university which would function or would be able to function without the recognition of the government. And then it lays all the responsibilities on you to say, admit disabled people without discrimination, make building and campus accessible, provide reasonable accommodation, and so on and so forth. Education will be a game changer. Next, quickly, accessibility. Section 44(1), 44(2). No establishment, and I've already defined establishment, I've already elaborated as to what establishment means. No establishment, it's an unambiguous clause. There is no scope of interpretation here. No establishment shall be granted permission to build any structure if the building plan does not adhere to the rules formulated by the government, etc., etc. No establishment shall be issued a certificate of completion if the building is not accessible. And most importantly, section 45(1), all existing public buildings shall be made accessible within a period of 5 years. This would be a game changer. Last but not the least, the teeth that Mr. Rao also referred to, the courts. And I'm amazed that all these amazing features, to my mind, path-breaking features, revolutionary features, have not figured in the public discourse so far, either in the media or even in the disability sector. I have not heard anybody talking about these or celebrating these. Everybody is telling me as to what is not there in the law. We should be celebrating as to what is there in the law. Section 85 says that all state high courts will set up a special court, and as Mr. Rao already elaborated, the special courts will be meant to speed up any issues, any controversies that may arise out of the law. I mean, I would wish that we don't have to use those codes and that people start complying. It goes without saying that there will not be an overnight revolution. It's not that on 14th of April, the law hopefully will be notified. That's what we are hearing. And then on 15th of April, we'll wake up in the morning and there'll be some miracle having taken place. It will take time. We will all go through a process of, I don't know, 2 years, 5 years. People like me would hope that it's not as long as even the law permits. So, for example, if the law says that all public buildings 5 years, I would not advise people to wait for the 5th year to then go around rushing to make their offices or to make their showrooms or to make their shops or to make their public places accessible. I would expect that people will be mature, people will be responsible, and they'll start from day one. As far as NCPDP is concerned, and I'm closing very quickly, we are very happy and proud to have led this movement. We were the people who met with the minister then 6, 7, 8 years ago to say that what this country needs is not amendments to the old law, but what this country needs is a new law. It took time. It took 7 months to convince the then minister to even accept the idea. A committee was set up. It took its own time, and no point in going into history. Today we have this law. Our responsibility now, and I feel that it's the responsibility of not just NCPDP, but every single disability organization, at least, and if not all others who are our friends, to now ensure that the law is disseminated, that awareness is created, and one webinar or one seminar or one workshop will not be enough. There is massive work ahead. On our part, we are translating the law into regional languages. We will ensure that it's very soon disseminated to all corners of India. We are lucky to have what is called the National Disability Network. We have partners all across India. With the help of them, we will be organizing seminars and workshops at the state level and ensure that as much awareness is created on the law so that the implementation starts on day one. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and massive congratulations to CII for having taken the initiative.
So thank you very much, Mr. Abidi. I think what you really have achieved is to get the elephant in the room to now become a little more visible to people. So far, we were all hedging away around the whole thing. So I think that's the biggest thing that this law will do. You've talked about how it is a game changer, and indeed it is. You've highlighted a couple of things. I think one of the key things that you've said is that now there are 14 additional disabilities that are part of the whole act instead of the earlier 7, and how there are layers even within the disability community, and the intellectual and psychosocial disabilities now have a face. Now they are persons from being something in the crowd of people out there. Accountability of private sector, which really is the purpose of what CII is doing, which is get the corporate sector, and for us, it's not just the private sector, but so we say the private and the public sector, the corporate sector overall to be sensitized, and that's something we are committed to doing. You've talked about the equal opportunity policy, and certainly from CII, we have over the last couple of decades been talking about being a responsible business, and responsible business entails that we would also have equal opportunity policies. We would of course need to see, and also along with our industry members, whether they have the term of persons with disability, and I think that's the tweaking that they will need to bring to the whole code of conduct that currently exists with many companies. Education indeed is the biggest single biggest game changer. So we eagerly look forward, and I'm sure we will have many companies, not just after today, because this is, like you said, just the beginning. A lot more companies need to take note and understand the full purport of what this act is going to bring, and I'm sure they will turn to the government, of course. They will turn to organizations who can help them in this regard, and with that I turn to our next speaker, who has been not just been involved with the CII for many years now in working in the whole disability space, advocacy space, but has done a lot of advocacy in this area of disability itself. So Rama Chari is our next speaker. She's the Director of Diversity and Equal Opportunity Center. She has over 2 decades of work experience in the field of disability. She has worked for the cause with many national level organizations like the Action for Disability Development and Inclusion, NCPDP itself, where she had headed the Legislation, Networking and Communications Unit. In 2007, she, along with 4 other professionals, set up the DEOC. She's an expert at consulting, training, accessibility, and research in the area of inclusion of persons with disability. Ramachari will be explaining relevant clauses of the Act and how industry can implement them. Over to you, Rama.
What I've decided for the session is basically to kind of explain some of the clauses that are there in the Act which are relevant for the employers, and some information as to how employers can read the Act and implement it. The first line, the first section of the Rights for Persons with Disabilities Act 2016 starts with saying an act to give effect to the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and has listed the principles of the convention. Principles of the convention are considered the foundation of the convention, which means that it is common to all the articles in the convention. So if one had to see the compliance of a policy or program with respect to the convention, what one would do is to see if it's compliant to the various principles, and then look at the specific provisions in the article to see the compliance. Similarly, when it comes to Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act, of course, again, similar procedure should be used to see first it is compliant to the principles. Say, for example, there is a clause saying that every company should have an equal opportunity policy, and what should go into the policy actually would come from the principles that have been listed. I do not have time to go, there are 8 principles, and 7 of them are relevant, but I don't have time to go into each and every principle, which is very, very crucial. However, I'll just highlight a few points. Example in A, it says freedom to make one's own choice. This is very crucial because for people with disability, most times the decisions are made by others. It could be family members, it could be NGOs, and even employers. Employers, in the sense that certain companies would say, okay, we can employ people only in these jobs and these disabilities in these jobs. So identification of jobs and all is completely out, because it will go against person's freedom to make one's own choice. So it would be considered violation. Another thing that C says full and effective participation. Again, it's just not talking about participation, but it has to be full and effective participation. If there's a person with hearing impairment, it's important that the participation is full and effective. It's not that you can just send minutes of the meeting later, but the person should be able to participate in the meeting right then and there. Respect for difference and acceptance of persons with disability as part of human diversity. Somebody had mentioned initially that how disability is viewed in the company. Persons with disability is part of diversity, and many companies today are recognizing that and saying that a disability is part of the diversity, because what really diversity means. Companies would want the same representation of people that is there in the population or the customer base as in the workforce. Say if there are 50% people, 50% of the population comprised of women, then they would like to see that representation in the workforce as well. Similarly, if there is 15% people with disabilities in the population, similar should be the representation in the workforce. So therefore, recognizing disability as part of human diversity is very, very important. Equality between men and women, because again, something that should be a focus on, because I've seen some of the companies which report on saying, okay, we have these many men, these many women, and this many disabled. Sometimes it's not even gender segregated. Companies do recognize that women face barriers in the workspace, and they have programs for women. So women with disabilities face double barriers. So you need to have programs for women with disabilities in the women's program, as well as programs for women with disabilities and disability program. All these points have to be considered when you're writing a policy on equal opportunity. To the next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. Another thing that I thought I should focus on today is the definition of person with disability. Briefly, it was spoken about. In the Act, there are 3 definitions for persons with disability. The first one, person with disability, that's a global definition. It does not refer to the specified disability given in the schedule, which is the 21 disabilities. It says a person with disability, 3 conditions, the person definitely should have an impairment, impairment. Third is that if he or she has faced any restriction in participation because of barriers. Say, for example, somebody with a kidney condition or renal failure. Definitely that is not listed in the schedule, 21 disability categories, which is listed in the schedule. However, if the person has been denied an employment because there's a policy of, say, a medical test and the person has been declared unfit, or a manager assumes that a person will not be able to do the job, in such a case, because he's facing a barrier which is administrative or attitudinal, he or she will be covered in the Act, and he can use that for justice. There's a second definition called persons with benchmark disability. The reason this definition is there is because government gives certain entitlements or benefits to people with disabilities, like reservation, social security. So they didn't want to give it to anyone and everyone. That is where this benchmark disability has been defined. And there is this benchmark disability refers to the specified disabilities which are there in the list in the schedule, which is the 21 categories. There again, and it's not that everyone in the 21 listed would be entitled for it. There is another clause saying 40%. Those above 40% will be, considered as people with benchmark disabilities. Again, here, the reason why is it important for the private sector, because one of the things that was mentioned, that there are incentives that will be provided to companies that employ people with benchmark disability. The government would want to know how many employees are there who have, say, benchmark disability. So in that sense, it would be important that you have a data of people who have disability certificate, benchmark disability. The third is persons with having, high support needs. That's again a new term that has been introduced. Here, out of the people who are benchmark disability, there are those who will need high support. It's not just physical support, who may need support in, say, decision making and other support. Again, the scale has to be developed and it will also be certified. So this is also important distinction, because the companies that are making programs for affirmative action or reasonable accommodation would need to take into account that there would be people with high support needs. Next slide, please. Yeah, I will not go into this detail because this has been spoken about. So next slide. The most important clause, that is relevant for everyone is that there's a clause which clearly says no person with disability shall be discriminated on the grounds of disability. Here, it does not say government establishment, it does not say private establishment, it does not say employment, it does not say education. Actually, it means anything. So all aspects of employment, no person with disability shall be discriminated. So all people with disability should have the right to non-discrimination and equality. And when we say discrimination, the way it is being defined is that it is not just about direct discrimination. It is also indirect discrimination. Indirect discrimination would mean, say, for instance, if there's a person with disability wants to apply for a job and the website is not accessible through which people can apply for the job, then it would be, the person is discriminated against. So it's an indirect discrimination. Similarly, another important aspect is that denial of reasonable accommodation is also considered as discrimination. So to be able to comply with this particular clause, so companies need to put in together very clearly that there should be no direct discrimination, there should be no indirect discrimination, and there should be a process for reasonable accommodation, not just in hiring, but throughout, in career advancement and every aspect of employment. Next slide. Okay, this was talked about that every company should have an equal opportunity policy, not just a policy, but also you have to detail out how you're going to implement the policy. It says detailing measures. And another thing is that you need to maintain record, the data of employment that you're doing, data of number of people with disabilities employed. Definitely you need to keep into account the confidentiality, privacy. One of the important aspects, the principles of convention is the dignity, so privacy and confidentiality, voluntary disclosure of disability, all that need to be maintained. And there's another clause which is a standalone clause, again very self-explanatory. No promotion shall be denied to a person merely on the ground of disability. So it's also that we need to ensure that promotions are, that people have equal opportunity for promotion. Next slide, please. I've spoken about incentives to employers. Move on. The government has to come up with incentives for establishment. Accessibility, I think, has been spoken about. I think companies should start with looking at if there are any new construction or under construction building, proposed building. Please ensure that it is accessible, because otherwise you will not get a certificate of completion and NOC. And of course, like Mr. Abidi said, don't wait for 5 years. For the existing, it says 5 years. But if major changes have to be done, then I would suggest you start now. And it might become very expensive if you want to do everything in 1 year. So you could phase it out so that you make it completely compliant in 5 years' time. Next slide, please. Service providers, again, there was a brief mention of service providers, and you have to make your services accessible. And the way services has been defined, it is not just the services provided to the customers, the banking, retail, health, transport. It is also employment and career advancement has been mentioned. So there are two aspects here. Firstly, try and make your services accessible. There is a timeline of 2 years. Whether you're a retail company or a transport company, you have to make your services accessible to people with disabilities. And second is employment services that you need to make it available for people with disabilities, right from the application stage to appraisals, trainings. All aspects of employment need to be made accessible to persons with disabilities. Next slide, please. Implementation monitoring mechanism, I think already been spoken. Just to highlight a few things, there are central and state advisory boards on disability, which are advisory boards. Industry has 3 people from the chambers will be part of this board. At district level committees are there. Of course, Chief Commissioner and State Commissioner are the people who will be implementing this act. They have the power of the civil court to address any issues. There will be special courts at the district level. And of course, there are offenses and penalties ranging from fine to imprisonment. Even a person who humiliates a disabled person in public, would be considered as an offense. So with that, I end my presentation, and thank you so much.
Very much, Rama. You've touched upon some very practical and very important points in terms of the very definition of how this is to be viewed. What you have also shared is that the diversity actually policy in effect within companies and even otherwise should mirror the ratio that we see in society. That's a very new way of actually looking at it from within the corporate sector, as I see. You've talked about the whole data of persons with disability becoming very important now in the new disposition, how benchmark disabilities will need and people with high support needs will have to be, the information will have to be very carefully put together. You've also talked about the way the policy needs to be framed has to include the measures and not just leave it at a statement level, as also important points of principles about freedom to make individual choices, full participation, full respect to the person, and last but not the least, the mechanisms for implementing and monitoring that really need to be put into place, and that are already there at a policy level from the government. Thank you very much, Rama. We will now move to our speaker from the corporate sector. We are looking at Sameer Gadgil, Vice President and Head of HR of Wipro. Wipro is one of the companies, as was mentioned earlier, who have even before the the act has coming into place has already led from the front, and they have a fairly robust mechanism, and so therefore we would like to benefit from Mr. Sameer Gadgil's conversation with us. Over to you, Mr. Gadgil.
And as Shefali mentioned, we have started the journey on persons with disabilities almost 8 years ago, much before this law was even being talked about, the current one, I mean. And we had, even at that point, were very, I would say, liberal in defining disability as far as Wipro is concerned. We had not restricted it to the 7 then or even 21 now. It is still a very open-ended definition which covers even medical conditions that may be disabling, and even temporary conditions for which employees may have to seek reasonable accommodation for a stipulated period of time until the impairment continues. Moving on to slide number 3. In these two slides, slide 3 and 4, I would be really talking about what Wipro is doing against some of the key aspects which the RPD Act really mandates. Two things that they certainly bring to the fore is providing equal employment opportunity and non-discrimination to persons with disability. On that point, Wipro has been an equal employment opportunity ever since. Our hiring, our career development processes are inclusive to cater to persons with disability. All jobs in Wipro are open for people with disabilities for them to apply. Processes of selection is already inclusive. Recruiters are trained on an ongoing basis. They are being sensitized. Managers are sensitized. I think that is one area which has to be done on an ongoing basis. It's not a one-time activity, because there is a churn in the recruitment team, there is a churn in the managerial population, and people grow into a managerial role. So a continuous education around sensitizing our workforce, our managerial cadre, is something which we have now for last few years already fallen into the rhythm of doing. We have now created a framework, and we call it a CREATE framework, to ensure inclusive workplace in the larger organization and globally. This is not specific to India, but a global thing. There are reasonable accommodations which we offer to our employees. There is a formal policy around an employee asking for reasonable accommodation. That leads me to the second point on the RPD Act of this slide, where organization is expected to maintain records and have a voluntary self-declaration form for employees. We have enabled this through our intranet portal, MyWipro. An employee can voluntarily self-declare themselves with their disabilities and what reasonable accommodations they would need. So it's not a mandatory thing. Even if we see somebody limping at the time of interview, we don't really mandate them to declare. An employee is not required to declare their disability, but it is a voluntary activity. Moving to slide number 4, the other two aspects around environment, to provide an accessible first physical infrastructure, and second all the services. So as far as the infrastructure is concerned, again during the initial 3 to 4 years of our journey in this space, we had invested significantly in making our all existing campuses inclusive, be it our cafeteria, our buildings, our lifts, and conference rooms, everything. it's not just physical infrastructure, but also the IT infrastructure that is being made inclusive. So our websites, our intranet portals, our workflows, because being an IT company, most of our workflows are online. So all of those are inclusive. And now we have even adopted our IT infrastructure to lend itself inclusive by default. So any new application that gets designed is by default inclusive. So we have moved to that level of maturity now, where adequate investment into the IT infrastructure has already happened. There are policies, processes, mailers, everything is made inclusive. So persons with any impairment that we have spoken of should be able to read, understand, and act as per the policy. On slide number 5, this is the overall disabilities charter and framework that we have. You can read the vision that is stated here. And there are 3 key aspects in our entire diversity charter. One is a diversity council, which has the highest level of representation, including the CEO, the CHRO, the chief legal officer are part of the diversity council. Then we have location spokes to drive location charter. So be it Pune as a location, or Mumbai or Bangalore, across the globe, we have these location charter chapters, as we call it, who run the charter to drive diversity in their location. And it's diversity charter, and it includes therefore persons with disability. So the location charters have a wider role, and it's not just limited to persons with disability. And then there is a dedicated lead that we have in the organization to champion the cause of persons with disability. So that person really brings in the thought leadership, the directive, the effort in tracking and getting things done in the organization. Moving on to the next slide. This is the CREATE framework, which I was referring to a while ago. For some reasons, a few pictures are not visible here. But CREATE is an acronym. It stands for our initiatives around career, recruitment, engagement, accessibility. Talent transformation is nothing but training and enablement. So across all these 6 tenets, our entire diversity and inclusion charter is really weaved around. So providing equal opportunity to getting them considered for all the jobs, making our recruitment process inclusive, be it through social media, interview, the support that we get from the NGOs in the pre-employment training and hiring program. There is a huge amount of work that has happened in attracting talent, making Wipro a preferred workplace, not just for persons with disability, but overall for the job seekers. Engagement. This is a very high involvement activity where we have to spend a lot of time because being inclusive, while it has to get into the DNA of the organization, it takes time, it takes efforts, and it takes a lot of continuous engagement, be it with from a point of view of leadership connects, be it from the point of view of specific initiatives that we run to mark certain dates, be it World Disability Day or International Women's Day, and things like that. Accessibility, I have spoken about both building and IT accessibility. We are a WCAG 2.0 compliant. All our portals are compliant as per those guidelines. Our talent transformation engine is really geared up to deliver various training programs, right from sensitizing managers to recruiters, to ensuring that our training policies are modified as per reasonable accommodation requests which we get before the training program starts. There is an online DNI module which any employee can really take up at their pace and time. And finally, the enable tenet, where all the support systems, there is a mentoring program that we have. So we call it Mitra. Trained people are in charge of disability charter and are of course connect with various education and NGO education institutes and NGOs, really help us drive this charter in a big way. Moving on to the next slide. These few slides, I'll just sift through them, really gives you a glimpse of the various programs that we do. The first one is really a kinesics course on sign language, which we conduct for our managers. These are campus walkthrough that we have. We have a day out of qualified persons with disability in our campus. We take them through our campus, talk about various opportunities that we have. This is really the impact that we have created, and this is, believe me, a journey of over 7 years. And this is a churning population as well. It's not that while IT sees a lot of churn, in any case, persons with disabilities are not immune to it. At any point in time, we have people hovering around 400 to 500. This is the latest statistics which I have picked up. So 368 people who are there in the organization. There are 50 plus policies that we continuously review and update. About 230 employees out of these 368 are part of the online Winclusive group that we have, Wipro Inclusive. That's what Winclusive means. 120 plus internal applications are made accessible. 33,000 plus employees have been certified through the online DNI module, and 9,000 plus recruiters and hiring managers have been certified. While these numbers look good, believe me, it takes a lot of effort and a consistent drive to make these things happen. Moving on to the next slide. This is really our vision to in the coming years after this policy is formalized. We certainly want to consolidate our position in the industry as being the torchbearer. And take our entire program to the next level. We want to be a preferred employer of choice, increase our footprint in the space of persons with disabilities, enhancing usability and accessibility using new and new technological developments which are happening. For example, mobile enabling our various apps for persons with disabilities, awareness amongst business population and on the talent pool. For those, one of, again, the big challenge for us to really enable career mobility for persons with disability. It's one big step that we end up accomplishing after a person joins the organization, but for them to continue to enjoy the work that they are doing and grow in the organization is really the proof of the pudding, where we can take a pat on our back by saying that yes, we have created an inclusive environment where people feel that they are part of a larger family and they feel that they are growing in their careers as well. So that's really it from my side. Thank you all. I would certainly like to thank CII, their entire leadership, for giving us this opportunity to present our practices. And it was really great to hear Mr. Apidi and Rama. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gadgil. That was a very fascinating detail that you shared. If I can just look at it, I think to us it looks like literally like a next practice and not just a best practice, because you have thought through this whole almost like a 360-degree much before it is something that is coming into force from a law or a legal perspective. So I think it really deserves the next practice category in terms of what you have been able to achieve. You've talked about reasonable accommodation, you've talked about how employees can self-declare, and I think a very important point that I picked up was also the fact that even medical conditions which are temporarily something that are disabling, those are also covered as part of your overall agenda of what you're covering. Thank you very much. I'm sure there would be some questions to you. Necessary information in